a super battleship named after the president, touted as having 100 times the combat power, and potentially costing up to $15 billion. Is it a grand blueprint to restore American maritime supremacy, or a massive bubble inflated on a weakening industrial foundation? Just yesterday, at a press conference in Mar-a-Lago, Florida, President Trump personally unveiled plans for a new class of warship dubbed the Trump class, christening the lead vessel USS Invincible. In his description, it will be the fastest and largest warship ever built by the United States, serving as the core flagship of America's new Golden Fleet, with combat capabilities offering a generational advantage over existing vessels. According to the plan, the U.S. Navy will first build 2 vessels, quickly adding 8 more, with the ultimate goal of equipping a massive fleet of 20 to 25 battleships. These colossal behemoths, displacing 30,000 to 40,000 tons, will integrate the most advanced weaponry conceivable in this era: hypersonic missiles, electromagnetic railguns, laser interceptors, and cruise missiles armed with nuclear warheads. President Trump has even personally expressed his intent to participate in the design process, citing his strong emphasis on aesthetics. Yet behind this vision of power and aesthetic ambition, personally sketched by a political strongman, loom the stark realities of America's shipbuilding industry, the sober skepticism of the military establishment, and the specter of numerous historical unfinished projects, all casting a heavy shadow over the future of this grand scheme. From a tactical perspective, the Trump-class battleship concept indeed reflects the U.S. Navy's anxieties and aggressive responses to future high-end naval warfare, particularly great power competition. Its massive displacement would grant it far superior endurance, self-sustainment, and weapon-carrying capacity compared to the current Arleigh-Burke-class destroyers. The planned configuration includes a 128-cell Mk-41 vertical launching system, complemented by a 4-cell super large-diameter launch module capable of housing 12 conventional prompt strike (CPS) hypersonic missiles. This combination grants the ship formidable capabilities in area air defense, land attack strikes, and anti-ship warfare. The integration of hypersonic weapons, in particular, aims to address a critical current shortfall in the U.S. Navy's arsenal. Directed energy systems like the 32-megajoule electromagnetic railgun and laser weapons point toward a new paradigm for future ship defense and low-cost interception. Additionally, the planned flight deck and hangar enable operations with V-22 Osprey aircraft and next-generation TOL aircraft, granting it aviation capabilities and long-range projection, functionally surpassing traditional destroyers or cruisers to resemble a multifunctional floating arsenal. President Trump and Secretary of the Navy Thomas Varon positioned it as the world's largest, deadliest, most versatile, and visually stunning warship, a deliberate attempt to create a symbol that overwhelms any potential adversary through sheer physical parameters and visual intimidation. However, establishing such a symbol requires a solid industrial foundation, precisely the most criticized and questioned weakness of the Trump-class program. Upon its announcement, military experts and analysts immediately poured cold water on the plan. Former Rear Admiral and think tank expert Mark Montgomery sharply criticized the Golden Fleet initiative, arguing its existence was not grounded in tactical utility, but rather designed to pander to Trump's aesthetic preferences, with the core requirement being sheer coolness. Mark Conchin, a senior advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, directly questioned the feasibility of its eventual completion. Such skepticism is not unfounded. It is deeply rooted in the alarming state of the U.S. shipbuilding industry. Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Research, Development, and Acquisition Brett Seidler admitted during a March congressional hearing that the U.S. shipbuilding industry faces severe challenges, resulting in average delivery delays of 1 to 3 years and cost increases far outpacing inflation. These issues plague both nuclear-powered and conventional vessels, stemming from manufacturing decline, underinvestment, supply chain disruptions, and most critically, labor shortages. Data indicates that the average age of U.S. shipbuilders has reached over 50, leaving the industry grappling with a severe shortage of successors. Zhang Yao, a researcher at the Shanghai Institute for International Studies, points out that shipbuilding is a complex system requiring intergenerational continuity, encompassing factory operations, supply chains, and talent development. Once disrupted, such systems prove difficult to restore. Today, the United States faces precisely this crisis of systemic collapse. Against this industrial backdrop, building a super destroyer like the Trump class, displacing 35,000 tons, presents unprecedented challenges. It requires an ultra-large dedicated dry dock, a highly skilled workforce, and the capability to integrate complex subsystems. Brian Clark, an expert at the Hudson Institute, points out that even if the U.S. Navy were to build a new shipyard for this purpose, it would still take an estimated decade from construction to delivery of the first vessel of this class. Yet the Trump class aims to launch its first vessel in the early 2030s, presenting an extremely tight timeline. Even more concerning are the financial costs. According to analysis by U.S. Naval Institute News, the estimated cost per ship ranges between $10 billion and $15 billion. Mark Conscien's estimates also fall within the $10-12 billion range. By comparison, the latest Ford-class aircraft carrier costs approximately $13 billion, while an Arleigh Burke-Flight II destroyer costs around $2 billion. This means a single Trump-class destroyer would cost nearly as much as a supercarrier and 5 to 6 times that of a mainstay destroyer. Given the impossibility of unlimited military budget expansion, such exorbitant per-ship costs will inevitably severely squeeze the construction and procurement space for other vessels. When announcing this plan, Trump also mentioned building 3 large aircraft carriers and 12 to 15 new submarines, projects equally costly and requiring capacity from the same weakened industrial base. The U.S. Navy's new ship procurement has been described as a hopelessly out-of-control situation, with decommissioned vessels consistently outpacing replacements, causing the fleet to shrink. The emergence of the Trump class, this gold-devouring behemoth, is likely to exacerbate rather than alleviate this predicament. So what is the significance of the Trump-class battleship plan? Viewed most optimistically, it could be seen as a drastic measure to forcibly stimulate the revival of America's maritime industry. Both Trump and Secretary of the Navy Thomas V. Fellon emphasized that the plan aims to revitalize U.S. naval industrial capabilities. By setting an extremely ambitious and challenging goal, it seeks to pressure Congress into allocating funds, attract investment, rebuild supply chains, and cultivate a skilled workforce. In March this year, Congress introduced the Save Our Shipyards Act, proposing a special committee to study policies for revitalizing the maritime industrial base, reflecting bipartisan recognition of the issue's severity. From a military technology evolution perspective, integrating next-generation systems like hypersonic weapons, railguns, and laser weapons onto a large platform for testing and validation also holds technical exploration value. However, all these potential benefits hinge on the program's successful execution. Should it ultimately become another abandoned project due to cost overruns, technical bottlenecks, or political transitions, the damage to both the U.S. Navy and shipbuilding industry would be twofold, squandering massive funds in a critical time window while further eroding public and industry confidence in the military's ability to execute large-scale projects. Thus, examining the Trump-class battleship program reveals a landscape fraught with contradictions and uncertainties. On one hand, the president's vision of a future fleet, embodying absolute power and aesthetic confidence. On the other, the grim reality of a domestic industrial base mired in talent shortages, supply chain contraction, delivery delays, and cost overruns. On one hand, there is the urgent ambition to overwhelm strategic rivals. On the other, an embarrassing history of vacillating equipment development paths and repeatedly aborted projects. Even before its keel was laid, the much-anticipated USS Intrepid was already navigating the vast chasm between vision and reality, between ambition and capability. Its fate will transcend the success or failure of a single warship. It will serve as a litmus test for America's ability in the 21st century to rebuild its core industrial foundation and translate it into enduring military advantage.